Well, this is episode 100 of the Intentional Midlife Mom podcast. And I say, let's celebrate. Let's celebrate episode 100. And so to do that, I have pulled out my most commonly used mantras and strategies and really truths that I share with my coaching clients all the time. I've combed through the texts I have with them, I've combed through my coaching lessons. I've combed through my coaching conversations that I have with my coaching clients on a daily basis, and I have pulled out the ones that I use the most often, so that I can share them here with you today. So these are the things I share not only with myself, remind myself of these things in my life, but also the ones that I share with women who are really looking to take back control of their lives. So these are the strategies, mantras, and truths that you are not going to want to miss. And by the way, I've got a brand new Get Started guide that will give you various tools to help you take back control of your life too. So check out the show notes for a link to get that guide for free. And with that, let's dive in and celebrate. Well, hey there, I am Jennifer Roskamp, a certified life coach and homeschool mom of 9 who is passionate about helping women just like you embrace the here and now while also being focused on creating the life you actually want. As a midlife mom in her 40s, about to be a mom in my 50s, I've realized that it's so easy to lose yourself in caring for your family, your home, and all the things. Until one day you realize you're not even sure who you are anymore or what you even want in life. So on this podcast, we're going to work on managing yourself well so that you can manage all of the other things and people well too. So let's dive into what it means to manage your home, your time, your family, and yourself well. This is the Intentional Midlife Mom podcast. All right. Well, I am so excited to jump into what I have for you today. Again, after being here for 100 episodes now, I wanted to kind of just give you guys some of the best of the best. And so what I did was I combed through all of the correspondences that I have in various formats with all of my coaching clients in various ways. I've got coaching communities. I offer one-on-one coaching in a variety of ways. I have a coaching program. And so I really just kind of went through a lot of my Voxers. That's how I communicate daily with my one-on-one coaching clients. I just kind of went through all of those. I looked through all of the lessons and teachings, and I just kind of found what I say most often. And then I thought about what I use most often in my life, and I came up with some strategies, some truths, and some mantras here for you. So I'm going to start off with a mantra. And basically a mantra, by the way, a mantra, I share a new one pretty much every Monday here for you. And so what is a mantra? A mantra is a powerful tool basically that you can use to take back control of your thoughts. Because whether you realize it or not, your thoughts are the driver of the ship. Your thoughts affect your feelings, which then affect the actions that you do and do not take, which then brings about the results, the circumstances, the reality that you live every single day. And so a lot of times what we do is we try to treat the symptoms of our struggles. We try to treat the symptoms of our issues and our problems. And it's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on something. It's kind of like in the medical field, you go to a doctor or you go to an emergency department with some symptoms that are happening, but before they know how to fix the symptoms that you're experiencing, they have to diagnose what's actually happening. And really what that means in the context of what I do as a coach is I help you uncover I help you find that diagnosis, and that's uncovering those thoughts. And then it's planting the correct thoughts to treat the symptoms or alleviate the symptoms that you're currently having so that you experience different realities, different results, different circumstances. Now, there's always an element Sometimes there's a lot of elements about the circumstances and realities and outcomes that we have that we can't control. But as a coach, I help people realize that there is always this element that you can control, and that is your responses to everything and everyone that you come into contact with. And so a mantra is just a really good way it's a really healthy thought for you to plant in your mind so that when you start having circumstances and outcomes and realities that you don't like, you can go back to that thought level, think about a healthy mantra that will help point you in a different direction, lead you to different feelings, so you take different actions, so you experience different results and outcomes. Sounds kind of like a magic wand, and it is a little bit like that, but it's not effortless. It does take effort. And that's where really I come in to bridge the gap for all of the women who I coach. I'm there to walk alongside women like you to say, "Hey, let's give this some intentionality. Let's think about some thoughts, rearrange them, and then let's make sure that we're implementing them in your life rather than just letting life happen to you," which is what most of us do. So, I've got a mantra for you first, and here it is. It's nothing has gone wrong. It's just new information. Nothing has gone wrong. What happens when things creep up, especially unplanned things, challenges, obstacles, problems that you have to solve, is we kind of go into this panic mode, right? It's like this red blinking light, like problem, 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 and our anxiety gets heightened and all of our, so then we're kind of in this heightened state. And there's not good things that typically happen there. We can't think through things properly. Our emotions get all triggered. And so if we can just rethink what is happening, take it out of the category of problem, 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 and and de-escalate what we're thinking and feeling a little bit, we're able to actually look at something a little bit more realistically, and we're able to figure out how to take in this new information in a more rational, realistic, effective way. And so nothing has gone wrong. This is just new information. Now, I will say it's not always going to feel like nothing is wrong. There are plenty of times where it still feels like, you know what, something is very wrong here. As I am recording this podcast episode, we have been without water for almost 24 hours at our house. We've got a well. And let me tell you that this was the mantra that I had to say to myself, but I said it through gritted teeth because there are 12 people who live at my house and no water is kind of a big deal. And so it felt like there is something actually wrong here. But I reminded myself of this mantra and I repeated it to myself. Nothing has gone wrong here. This is just new information. And it truly was. Once I de-escalated myself, I thought, let's go to YouTube. Let's see what I can find on YouTube if I Google well pump is not turning on. And that took me to a video that I started watching and he pulled out his manual. And I thought, I wonder if there's a manual downstairs by my well mechanism, my pump and all of that in the electrical looking type box. Sure enough, there was a manual there. And I pulled out the manual. I kind of started looking at that's when I noticed, oh my goodness, there's a red flashing light on this mechanism. That's probably a signal that there's something wrong. Pull out the manual, look to see if I can figure out what the red flashing light was. Ultimately, I wasn't able to diagnose or solve the problem, but I sure felt a whole lot better when I had some sort of action plan, something to try, rather than just throw my hands up in the air and say, oh my gosh, we have no water. This is so frustrating. This is so terrible. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Nobody's washed the dishes today yet. I've got 3 loads of laundry to do and people need showers, right? Yes, all of that was true. But by me repeating this mantra to myself, I was able to move forward. I was able to get out of panic mode and into problem solving mode. And ultimately, it's not going to solve your problems some of the time, just like it didn't solve my problem either. But the idea here and the important part is that I felt a lot better because I was no longer in that heightened state of panic, frustration, and just throw my hands up in the air. What am I going to do? Nobody likes to be there. It's a very unsettled place to be. So nothing has gone wrong. It's just new information. It might not be able to solve your problem for you, but it is going to solve really the deepest issue, which is the you issue. You have got yourself all worked up. So let's take it down a notch or two, and this mantra helps you do that. So that's the first thing I had for you. The second thing, this is another mantra, and I have assigned this to coaching clients. Let me just tell you this. I have assigned this to coaching clients on 4 different occasions already this week, and it's Tuesday. So this is one that, again, it comes out of my back pocket all the time, whether I'm giving it to coaching clients or myself. And it is this: I don't have the answers, but I'm confident in my ability to figure this out. What happens a lot of times is when life gives us challenges, or we have something that it feels hard to do, it feels difficult to figure out, is we try to figure it. We get discouraged about the fact that I can't figure out the way forward. And then we become paralyzed. We become stuck. And it just becomes easier to bury our head in the sand and just hope it goes away, whatever it is. And it's all because we are expecting ourselves to be able to figure it out right now, solve the problem right now. And sometimes we just have to give ourselves the breathing room to say, I don't know. I don't know here. But I am confident in my ability to figure it out. That makes all the difference, because a lot of times we lack confidence in ourselves, especially if we have a track record of dropping the ball or burying our head in the sand or procrastinating on things. And then we just kind of allow ourselves to continue to bury our head in the sand. And in reality, we actually can move things forward way more often than we give ourselves credit for. You are so much smarter and more equipped to manage things in your own life than you probably give yourself credit for. So remembering, I don't have the answers. From where I stand right now, I have zero idea what we're going to do, but I'm confident in my ability to figure it out. And then you do. You start to make that progress little by little, small piece by small piece, one thought, one exploration piece, right? First, I went to YouTube, right? That didn't, okay, let me go to the manual now. Let me try to look in the box. I took the cover of the box off to see, can I see anything inside, right? When we stay paralyzed, we're going to get nowhere. And that doesn't feel good. We don't like to be paralyzed. It feels better, even if we don't go anywhere or solve anything. Once we start allowing ourselves to try, we feel a whole lot better. And that's what we're after. Because again, your feelings, remember what I told you in the beginning, it goes thoughts, feelings, and then the things that you do and don't do, your actions come after that. So if we can manipulate our feelings from bad to better, well, then that changes the actions that you're willing to take too. And that's why it's so important to focus on those thoughts and feelings, because we think it's about the thing you are or are not doing. But it starts underneath that. It starts before that. And that's what we're talking about here. So I don't have the answers, but I'm confident in my ability to figure this out. The next thing I have for you here is really a strategy. And there are times, probably every day, that you find yourself faced with a decision to do something or not do something. It might be something that was on your list or something that was on your plan or your schedule for the day. And you're sitting there and you're looking at it and you're saying, I just don't feel like it, right? It could be something small, like getting out for a work, getting up on time. Could be something small, right? Getting up on time or hitting snooze. Or it could be something bigger, like I'm supposed to really start working on trying to find a job or something like that. And again, we're kind of at this point where, am I going to do it? Am I not? Am I going to do it? Am I not? And a good question to ask yourself, I'm going to put it in context of myself. A good question to ask myself is, which Jennifer do I want to be? Do I want to be the Jennifer who looks for the job? Or do I want to be the Jennifer who just waits for another time? Do I want to be the Jennifer who actually just gets the workout done? Or do I want to be the Jennifer who couldn't find time for it today, or who didn't find time for it today? Because what we don't realize, and what is usually hidden from us, is the reality that we always have to live with the outcome. Whether or not I do my workout, or whether or not I don't, I'm going to come on the other side of that. I'm going to have to live on the other side of that equation. So, which outcome is it that I want? Even when you don't actually make a choice. Sometimes we try to say, "Oh, I'm not going to choose. I'm just going to, I don't know which way to go on this. So I'm just going to wait a little bit longer to decide," right? And then we get to overthinking and overanalyzing, and then we get to paralysis, sometimes perfection paralysis, because, "Oh, I don't want to choose wrong. I want to choose the right thing." And so we just delay even making a choice, but that is a choice. You're still living with the outcome that I haven't made a choice and I haven't taken the action either. While I'm in this land of indecision, I call it living in the land of indecision. While we're living in the land of indecision, we're experiencing that outcome. There's always an outcome that we're experiencing. We try to hide the fact from ourselves that not choosing or choosing to not take the action produces an outcome, but in reality it does. So it's a really good question. Sometimes I'll ask my coaching clients to say, which Paula do you want to be? Do you want to be the Paula who starts working on that clutter project? Or do you want to be the Paula who waits longer for that? Who is it that you would like to be? And putting it in that perspective makes us kind of take ownership of it. And it helps us forward pace ourselves. Because at the end of the day, when you're wanting to go to bed and wind down for the night, you're going to either be the Paula, I'm going to come back to that example. You're going to either be the Paula who did the thing or the Paula who did or the Paula who didn't. So which one of that do you want to be? Which Paula, which version of Paula do you want to be? And just ask yourself. So that's the third thing, is that strategy. Here's another mantra. Man, I say this one to myself a lot. And I remind my clients of this one a lot too. And here it is. It's just do something. Just do something. If you're like a lot of people out there, myself included, and I teach people to do this, you're making some sort of to-do list, some sort of task list, some sort of game plan for the day, ideally on paper or in an app or something like that, where you've got somehow you've got a way to visually look at what you need to do today, or what you should do today, or what you've decided you're going to do today. But then we get to this point where, again, it's time to take the action. And we're looking at that thing we're supposed to do. And in reality, we're looking at that and saying, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that right now. I don't have it in me. I feel stressed. I'm just out of energy. I'm feeling drained. And I'm not going to do that. And so rather than just allowing yourself to completely turn in the other direction and do nothing, you're going to fill that gap with this mantra. Just do something. Okay, so pick something else off your list. Maybe you were supposed to work on that decluttering project, but for whatever reason, that just feels too heavy. It's too big of an ask of yourself right now. But you know that you also have to make dinner. So maybe instead of starting on that clutter project, you're going to walk into the kitchen and you're going to start pulling the stuff out that you need for dinner. And you're going to start chopping a few of the things you need or pulling the meal together in some way. That's just doing something. And the thing is that when we are just doing something, we aren't having to deal with the fact that we're doing nothing. And it's a real hard place for us to be when we realize not only are we not doing the thing, we're not doing the clutter project, but now we're wasting our time. We're allowing ourselves to do nothing, and that feels even worse. What you'll find is that if you're supposed to do the clutter project and you get there and you say, yeah, I'm not doing that, and then you bridge the gap with this mantra, just do something, and then you walk into your kitchen and you start working on the meal, or you start folding some laundry or something else, you'll find that you don't have to wear kind of the burden of the label of I'm not doing the thing and I'm being completely unproductive. And then you slap labels on yourself like lazy and unmotivated, and you're procrastinating. And now you're in this downward spiral of negative self-talk, and it's real hard to pull yourself out of that. So the just do something is kind of a way to divert yourself from maybe the thing that you should be doing or that you're supposed to be doing. You're allowing yourself to divert and just do something else instead. And what you'll find is sometimes, again, because you're continuing to at least do something, it's going to be a whole lot easier for you to kind of reroute yourself back to doing that clutter project. What's real hard is if you allow yourself to do nothing, and then you have to muster up all the motivation and all the willpower and all the things to then take on the clutter project. If a couple of these other smaller, less important tasks help you bridge the gap to actually then start the clutter project a little bit further down the road, a little bit later than you thought, well, you've still come out ahead then. So, the clutter project, if that's really what you should be doing, maybe allowing yourself to ease into it with some of these smaller tasks will just kind of help ease the way, make the way into doing something a little bit easier. So just do something. I love that mantra. The next thing I have for you is a little bit of a concept, and you're going to tack it on to the end of many different sentences that you might be saying, many different thoughts that you might be having, many different situations. So here's the little ending that you're going to tack on. It's these two words, for now. For now. Tacking this on to the end of phrases helps remind you that nothing is permanent. A lot of times we find ourselves in circumstances and situations that we don't really like. I wish I didn't have to pick up all this overtime right now. I wish that I had availability in my schedule to meet my friends for coffee every once in a while. I wish that I had the ability to work out for 45 minutes every day, but I actually only have 15 minutes. But I actually only have 15 minutes for now. When you have that for now tacked on to the end of any of these circumstances or situations or sentences or thoughts, it helps soften the blow that this is a no. And in reality, it's just a no for now. Maybe later it'll be a yes. So reminding yourself, this is just the way it is for now. Life is full of seasons. And I'm not talking about the seasons outside the window, but life is full of seasons. And certain seasons are going to look a certain way, but the thing about seasons is they always change. And so even though there might be a situation that you're having to live within right now, there are limitations you have to accept. There are situations you have to incorporate into your daily life. They're not always going to be there in exactly the same way as they are now. Therefore, down the road, the circumstances will change, and therefore your opportunities will also change. So for now, tacking this on to the end of one of these sentences that, or thoughts or situations that just feels like it's a little bit uncomfortable to swallow, it just helps us remember, you know what? It's just that I'll be able to reevaluate, revisit, rethink later. For now, this is just the way it needs to be. So for now, tacking that on to a situation that you're not necessarily happy with can help soften that blow a little bit. And again, bring into perspective this whole idea that things change. There's what I call the fluidity of life. And just because it has to be a no or a yes or whatever for now doesn't mean it has to always be that way. But we lose sight of that so easily. And so this is one of those things that if you just kind of keep it tucked in your back pocket, when you find yourself in a situation where you're like, yeah, I'm not thrilled about this, it's only temporary, right? Some seasons are longer than others. It might be that it has to be something that's part of your reality for now. But at some point, life changes. Your circumstances will change in such a way that could very likely allow you a different opportunity than what you have available to you right now. And just kind of keeping your perspective on that does help. So what I have for you next is another mantra. And this is actually one of my 6 mantras for intentional moms. If you don't already have that free download, there is show notes down at the bottom where you can get a link to grab that. There is also a link down there where you can get our free guide and get started guide. And the mantras are part of that as well. So you'll be able to get all 6 of these mantras that I think are really solid mantras. Again, really good ones to just kind of start with when you're ready to just kind of start saying, you know what? I'm ready to live life more on my terms. And again, it always starts with our thoughts and really transforming and taking back control of our thoughts. And so the mantras do a good job of that. But this is another mantra that's part of those 6 most essential foundational mantras for me. So here it is. I'll do what I can and then be done. I think it's a close cousin to that is I'll do what I can and let go of the rest. To me, that whole let go of the rest kind of feels a little bit like I'm failing or a little bit like I'm setting this down and I'm never going to pick it back up. Because we tend to be black or white thinkers. And so to me, letting it go means bye-bye. And when we change it just slightly and say, I'll do what I can and then be done, says, it's kind of again got that for now sort of feeling to it. I'm going to do what I can and then I'll be done. I'll see what it looks like later. I'm going to do what I can and then I'll be done. And then I'll decide what I'm going to do about the fact that I'm done. It's just not as final of a feeling. Again, it just kind of leaves that door open that for now, I'm stepping away from this. For now, I can't have this on my plate, but maybe later there'll be room for it again. So I'll do what I can and then I'm going to be done. This can be relevant when you're talking about being done at the end of your day. Like I was hoping to get more done today, but it's late and I'm tired and I know I need to get to bed so I can get up on time tomorrow. So it could be in that context, I'll do what I can and then I'll be done. It could be a problem or an obstacle that you really wish you could solve in a more complete way or in a better way, but you're saying I'll do what I can and then I'm going to be done. I will do this to the best of my ability. So it could be kind of like in the context of time, like in my first example, and it could be just one of those situations too where we're having to modify the way that we would actually like to handle something or the way that we would like to actually do something. And we're modifying it and we're saying, I'm going to do my very best. And that's as good as it's going to be. So it could be in that kind of context too. So I'll do what I can and then be done. What I have for you now is a concept that I teach about a lot of places. So it's called purposeful rest. So let me first talk about rest. Rest does not mean sleeping. And as I teach it, let me clarify. Rest does not mean sleeping, and resting does not mean that you're being lazy or unproductive either. Sometimes oftentimes, rest can be absolutely productive and purposeful. So that's a little bit about rest. And so the concept of purposeful rest is that we are taking a time of rest. We are spending time resting with a clear intention in mind. There is a specific outcome that this rest is going to make way for. So sometimes we take purposeful rest. A lot of times we're going to be doing it within the context of the fact that we need to refuel ourselves. We need to reset ourselves. We need to reboot ourselves. It's almost like rebooting your circuit board. Because in reality, we all have capacity. And when you're at your capacity, well, you can keep going for a little bit, but there will be a point. You can only push yourself for so long beyond capacity. And you are going to need a time of rest. So purposeful rest says, I recognize that I am in need of refueling, resetting, rebooting, taking a moment because my anxiety is heightened, or I'm not using a filter in relationships or in my languages or language or in my thoughts that like I would like. We're recognizing, you know what? I am a little off here and I need to just step back from that. So purposeful rest can allow you to do that. So we can do that kind of in a more reactive way, but we can also incorporate purposeful rest in a more intentional way, in a more proactive way. So let's say that you know you're going to have a really busy week. You got this, that, or the other thing going on. Your schedule's packed. You're going to be very busy from an energy level standpoint. You're going to have maybe a heavier mental load than you usually have. And so you might then proactively say, I know that by the time I get to Friday, normally we do this, that, or the other thing on the weekend, but I know that I'm going to have to just kind of spend Saturday with that time of rest. I know that given what is ahead and what I will have just gone through, I'm again going to need that rebooting. I'm going to need that resetting. I'm going to need that refueling because I recognize that if I don't get that, this isn't, what follows, the outcome is not going to be good. I'm going to be sluggish. I'm going to be frustrated. I'm going to not be able to process things like I want to process things. And so that purposeful rest says, I'm taking this time to step aside, to spend some time reading or watching something or spending time with a friend or sitting on the front porch and watching the sunrise or whatever it might be, I'm doing so because I know that that is the very best way that I can spend my time right now or at this particular time. Purposeful rest. Rest does not mean that you are lazy. We all need it. And what we do want is to make it purposeful and intentional. And that's when it becomes a very big asset. So purposeful rest. I think this next one, I would consider it also a strategy. And I remind, again, coaching clients of this a lot. It's this idea that we are to be measuring the efforts, measuring your effort taken, not the results or the outcome. Because in reality, you can't control the outcome. You can do everything you can to take the best actions, to set yourself up for success in the best way. You can do all of those things. You can put forth all of those efforts to do that. But at the end of the day, there is always going to be an element of the outcome that is not in your control. But so often what we do is we judge our success or failure on the outcome. Did it go the way that we wanted to? Did we get the thing that we were after? And again, there's always going to be elements that we can't control. And so the right thing to measure when we want to say, how did we do? When we want to essentially evaluate ourselves, we need to make sure that we're measuring the effort. I don't think any of us actually walks into situations and say, I think I'm going to totally mess this up. We don't get up in the morning and say, I wonder if I can just really fly off the handle today. We don't. Usually we approach things with close to our best effort, or at least some effort in the positive direction. But again, when the outcome, when the day, when the morning, when a particular interaction doesn't go the way that we don't get the outcome that we want, we beat ourselves up for the outcome as though we could control it. And the only thing you can control is those efforts. And so that is what to measure when you are asking yourself, how did I do? So measure the efforts, not the results or outcome. I've got 3 things left for you. Here's the first one. It's a mantra. What can I still do? What can I still do? And you probably have no shortage of opportunities to apply this one in your life. Let me give you a couple of examples. This is a great one to haul out when life doesn't go as planned, when something has happened and it's messed everything up. When life didn't follow the way that you had this morning or this afternoon or today planned out, or this phase of your life planned out. Something has required you to be experiencing a different reality. And it can feel like that's a stopping point. It didn't go the way that I thought. This didn't happen like I thought it would. And we throw in the towel and we think we just have to give up on that thing, or we throw in the white flag for the rest of the day today. We see things that don't go our way as a stopping point often. And this mantra encourages you to say, okay, but what can I still do? Yeah, I wish it wasn't this way, but what can I still do? What can I still do? It's a question that you can ask yourself every time, again, you find yourself into a place that you don't necessarily like, or when something didn't happen like you thought it would. What can I still do? You can even apply this in tasks. So let me go back to my example and what I shared with you about not having water for the past close to 24 hours. You can imagine with 12 people, 10 people live here. My parents live next door on the same well, so they didn't have water either. But you can imagine what my house looks like with no way to wash dishes and the amount of people who eat and the amount of crumbs and slime on the counter and sticky stuff on the counter. It's everywhere. And normally we would be taking care of all of those things, but we didn't have water to do that. So we actually applied this same mantra in that situation too. Okay, what can I still do? So we took it as an opportunity to fold some laundry that needed to be folded, pick up some stuff that needed to be picked up in some kind of random places of our house that we don't always get to. Yeah, I should be spending my time. We should have been spending our time cleaning up after we ate meals. That's what we do. But what can I still do? I couldn't do that. What can I still do? Oh, I can still use my time to do these things. We can still use our time to do these things. So you can kind of use this mantra in that way too. So what can I still do? The second one, we got one left after this. This one is, I love teaching about this one. I feel like it's another mantra. Could be a truth too, actually. Nothing is all bad. Nothing is all bad. Again, when problems come up, challenges, just gut-wrenching situations, injustices, things that we don't like and that we shouldn't have to deal with and that are very unfair. It's so easy for us just to see all the bad. And boy, there could be a lot of bad there to see. But the reality is this is how I often say it. There are two sides to every situation, and they aren't both bad. It's hard to see that other side sometimes, though. Here's a little off take of the nothing is all bad mantra that can help you maybe start to find some of those things on the other side. Here's the question to ask yourself. What does this now make possible? What does this now make possible? Let me give you a good example of this. Years ago, my husband lost his job. And obviously, there's a lot of things there. There was a lot of complications. There was a lot to worry about. There was a lot of things we needed to figure out. There was a lot on that bad side of the equation. But what does this now make possible? Well, I can now come to all my kids' sporting events. This is where my husband had to go with his thoughts, right? I can now go to all my kids' sporting events. I can help out more at home. I can help take the load, the amount of the load that my wife usually carries because I am at work. Now that I'm not at work, at least not till I find another job, I can take on more tasks at home, right? So nothing is all bad. And asking yourself the follow-up question of what does this now make possible? I understand, though, that it's hard, and it's hard when it feels so heavy on the bad side. But I do promise that asking yourself, what does this now make possible? If you allow yourself to truly ask that question and answer it, again, it helps free up the heaviness of these hard, gut-wrenching situations that we are feeling and that we find ourselves facing. When we can also find the good with the bad, it makes life feel more tolerable. And that's what we're after. Because when life feels more tolerable, you are going to be acting differently, taking different actions than you would if you felt like life was hopeless. If you didn't see what was on the other side of the equation, you would be taking actions that are different than what you would take if you could see some of the silver lining. And that's what this mantra helps you do. The last one I have for you might be my favorite, just because it is so versatile. And I think it is one that it's one that is hard for us to actually believe. And that is this: I can do hard things. I can do hard things. You might feel like I can't do hard things. When you come up to a hard situation or a difficult situation, you might feel like I can't handle this. I am not equipped for this. I am not ready for this. I don't know how to manage this. I am not strong enough. But I am here to say that you can do hard things, just like I can do hard things. And I'll also tell you this: you've already done hard things in your life. When we get beyond those hard things, it's easy for us to lose sight. And it's easy for us to forget how hard that felt in the moment. And so we don't give ourselves enough credit. But I'm here to tell you, you have earned plenty of credit in doing hard things. Here's what I discovered. I did the 75 Hard Challenge 3 times. And of course, I had to come to grips with the fact that I can do hard things and I had to do hard things. What I learned during that challenge is things can be 100% hard, and I can still do them even though they are hard. Here's what I think happens. I think a lot of times when we diagnose something that we need to do or are thinking about doing as, wow, that's really hard, In our minds, I think we just kind of sit and we want to somehow in our minds make it feel easier. We want to somehow wait until it feels less difficult or it feels easier. And in reality, that just doesn't happen. And sometimes it actually gets harder if we wait on it, right? If you think about big projects that you need to take care of, like let's come back to use clutter for an example. Clutter is so hard to get rid of. I get that. I'm emotionally tied to clutter. There are actually some common clutter languages. And I know I've talked about that. I feel like here on the podcast, I teach about it in a lot of places with my coaching clients, but there are basic clutter languages. And mine is the fact that I am emotionally tied to the stuff that I know I need to get rid of. And that's hard, but I still can do it. I still can get rid of these things that I need to get rid of, even though my emotions are all wrapped up in it. I don't need to wait until I somehow feel like, oh, I'm ready to get rid of this stuff now. Because in reality, I am probably not going to feel that way. And with clutter, right? We know it tends to snowball. There's going to probably be more clutter and more clutter and more clutter. And so then the hard thing becomes even harder because it grew larger. It grew into a larger, hard thing. So remembering I can do hard things, and a little spin-off of that is I can do things even when they are hard. This thing over here can be hard and I can still do it. Both are true. Both are true. Sometimes we're very black or white thinkers as humans, and so we think it has to be one or the other. It has to be easy in order for me to do it. I have to convince myself that this isn't going to suck. You know what? There's probably no way to pull the wool over your eyes and convince yourself that it's not going to suck. It probably will. But this mantra helps remind you there is that but. But I will do it anyway. But I can do it anyway. But I can do hard things. That's where this mantra steps in and helps. So, wow, we covered a lot of ground, and I think it was the right thing to do in celebration of 100 podcast episodes here. So thanks so much for being with me. Help me get the word out about this podcast. The thing is that when if you have loved what I shared here with you and you felt it was empowering, whether this episode or some of the others, nobody knows to come gain the same information unless you tell them. And so I want to encourage you, if you find what I share here helpful, leave us a review. That helps. That helps a lot. Wherever you're listening to this episode, leave us a positive review. You can also share this episode. You can share this podcast with anyone that you know also needs some help, really getting from the driver's seat of their life and taking back control of their life and saying, I decide. I want to have some say-so in what I experience every day. If you know someone else who can benefit from that, especially if she's another midlife mom, man, share this podcast with her. The cool thing is that when you also have people who are listening to the same episodes, you can actually discuss them. My sister and I have fun doing that. So it actually takes what you are learning here from me, and it gives you the opportunity to expand on that even more because you can continue the discussion with people you know are hearing the same conversation and gaining the same tools. So I would love your help in the next 100 episodes, really helping get this podcast out so that other people can find it and benefit from the mantras and the truths and the practical lifestyle tips as well. So I ask for your help in that, and I thank you in advance for that. So again, thank you so much for joining me today. I will talk to you in the next episode. Make it an intentional day.